As someone who has reached Global 1 with Selena and held consecutive global titles, here's an in-depth guide including how to maximize her skills, builds and emblems, and arrow and trap placements. Now before we start, I just want to give you guys some words of encouragement. Selena mechanically takes a lot of skill and effort. It's okay, and it's normal to do bad in games or not doing as expected. As a global Selena, I have flopped multiple times. Other global players have flopped multiple times. If you're practicing Selena, then focus more on doing well in your matches and consistently show improvement. Every hero takes some amount of skill, even if mechanically they don't require much. If you ever find yourself in a dilemma where you're not sure if you can do good with a character, then just remember that all the good players have consistently practiced and have lost and done bad multiple times, just to play as good as they play. So don't give up. So let's start with Selena's passive. Selena can switch freely between her two forms. Her elven form can apply abyssal marks. Selena's first skill can apply 2 marks, when you place a trap and when it explodes. Selena's abyssal arrow can only apply 1 mark. Selena's first skill, Abyssal Trap. Selena can summon a trap at a given location. This trap can either be placed in key locations, walked on by enemies, or placed directly on enemies. It has 2 slow phases, when you place the trap and when it explodes. Selena's Abyssal Trap can also reveal enemies in a bush. However, be careful, because sometimes it may look like the trap is in the bush, but it isn't. Selena's second skill, Abyssal Arrow. Selena fires off an arrow, and if it hits, it stuns the enemy, while giving you 40% movement speed if the stun is over 1 second. This ability stun scales with distance, so the farther you are, the longer you stun them for, and if you're closer to them, you'll stun them for less. Selena's Abyssal Arrow can also pick up her Abyssal Trap. Selina's ultimate, Primal Darkness. Selena enters the Abyssal form and resets her skills, while also increasing her movement speed. Every time you level her ult up, the movement speed increases accordingly while also giving her magic power. Selena's first skill, Abyssal Form, Soul Eater. Selena enhances her basic attack while launching at an enemy. If Selena hits someone with her enhanced basic attack, she'll also gain some shield. Her enhanced basic attack can also combo with her passive, which increases her damage significantly. Selena's second skill, Abyssal Form, Garret. Selena charges in a designated direction. If enemies come in contact with her dash, they'll take damage. Her dash can also be comboed with her passive. Essentially, if enemies with passive marks come into contact with Selena's second skill, her dash will be reset, while dealing more damage. Selena's ultimate, Abyssal Form, Blessing of the Moon Goddess. Selena reverts back to her elven form, while gaining her elven form skills back. Now let's move on to Selena's combos. Her first combo is a bit trickier and can also be a little bit dangerous. Now this combo is very impractical in a real match. Why? Because it takes a lot of time, and especially with teams that have a lot of crowd control, I don't really recommend doing this, especially as a new Selena player. This combo is what I recommend doing if you want to close distance with your enemy and poke them. However, be careful. Sometimes if you use your dash and you can't reset it, the enemies could dash away or flicker, or maybe even purify, which will leave you vulnerable. And these are 2 combos, which is basically a hit and run, if you want to deal quick burst damage, while also having means to escape. Now since there are a plethora of combos you can do with Selena, sometimes you might want to get creative. So let's say the enemies have marks, right? But like you can't reach them. And then there's also another enemy who has marks. So what you could do is dash from the side target to the main target that you were focusing on, and then obviously go back. Another thing you can do is use the minion wave or jungle creeps to reach your enemies. After they buffed Selena's wave clear, I also noticed that you can only dash like once, whereas before they buffed her wave clear, you could dash like twice. From the minions, of course. Now I'm going to show you some good arrow locations. Shooting your arrows through big walls like that heavily conceals your arrows and makes it much easier to hit enemies. There's also this big wall near the enemy side red buff. Here you can place a trap in that bush, and then throw your arrow. Most of the times, enemies who pick up that trap will be slowed and it will be much easier to hit your stun. This is a good place to ambush, or people who hide in that tower will get caught off guard. Now, if you ever want to gank a lane, talking from personal experience, this bush is not it. Most of the times you will miss, because it's very easy to spot the arrow. Instead, move over to these bushes, but be careful of the minion waves, so try hide before any of the minions come. Say someone was hiding in this tower, this place will catch them off guard. Once again, this bush is a big no-no, and you should be shooting your arrows from these wider bushes. Now let me show you in terms of objectives where you should be placing your traps. Now the areas are marked in red oftentimes will already be checked, because I imagine as you're going to the objective, you'll be checking those bushes. Now the areas that are marked in green are bushes that I feel like you have to check, because I feel like they're more for the enemy side, rather than neutral bushes or your own team's bushes. The middle bush is a neutral area, meaning that you don't have to give it as much attention as the others. And that small bush, although it's on the enemy side, it's still very dangerous, and it can leave some enemies quite vulnerable if they decide to hide there. But it's still worth checking, not with your traps but with your arrows. Now, something that I always say in my videos about taking the jungle with Selena. Whenever you use your trap and arrow, and you have your ult on cooldown, make sure your ult is at least 3 seconds or less, so you won't be missing any of the marks for extra damage. As you guys can see in this example, I use my trap and arrow, but my ult is at 4 or 5 seconds, so I'm not able to switch and therefore I lose a mark. But here I'm waiting until my ultimate is at 3 seconds or less. Therefore, I'll be able to combo all my passive marks. These are just small things, but you know, I guess it's worth knowing. Now let's talk a bit about Selena builds. Again, every build here I'm just recommending, you guys don't have to use it. Feel free to experiment in your own time. Now let's start with my build that I usually use. In this build, I focus on getting that 45% cooldown reduction as fast as possible. If you were to try using the assassin emblem instead of the mage emblem, then you would need 3 cooldown items instead of 2. The penetration items and wishing lantern help me break through tanks. A build like this or similar to this is better for jungle or mid lane, since as a jungler and mid laner, you'll be able to get your items really fast. Holy Crystal and Blood Wings allow for a really high damage output while keeping you safe. However, there's one issue that I have with these kind of builds, is that Skypiercer is a 50-50 item, meaning that if you're not able to get a bunch of kills, then the item may not be as effective, but it just won't work as intended. So trust me, if you guys are not that confident with Skypiercer, then ditch it. Emblems I'd recommend with that build are Rupture, Master Assassin, especially in 1v1 situations, then Master Assassin will help Selena a lot, and Lethal Ignition that complements Selena's burst damage. You can also combo Weapon Master and Bargain Hunter to buy items at cheaper price while also making them more effective. And if you're playing Selena as a jungler, I do not recommend Season Hunter, because Selena already deals innately high damage to creeps, and it won't be as worth as some other emblems. Now for a more support-focused build, the only reason I'm calling this a more support-focused build is because the first 2 items are benefiting Selena and her teammates. Enchanted Talisman to increase her own cooldown reduction, and Anti-Heal to counter sustainers and healers. As for emblems, Rupture, Master Assassin, and Lethal Ignition are all good to increase Selena's burst damage. Now again, if you're playing the jungler role or the mid lane role and you want to increase your farm as fast as possible, then Bargain Hunter and Weapon Master is really good. Although Selena is a very mobile character, don't feel afraid to use Wilderness Blessing. It will help you get around the map a lot, especially as the roamer, mid laner, or jungler. The infamous crit build. The only time I'd ever recommend this build if the enemies are full of squishy heroes. Not to say that this won't work at all against tankier heroes, but you'll see that it's less effective. When running the crit build, I feel like you're more limited in what you can use. You need the Fatal talent to help you reach that 50% crit rate, especially if you're not using both of the crit items, Berserker's Fury and Dragon Spear. Bargain Hunter to help you buy your items faster, and Weapons Master to make your items more effective. If you aren't satisfied with some of these talents, then you can always use Rupture or Master Assassin. And generally, with all of these builds, I recommend the Mage Emblem and the Assassin Emblem. However, again, feel free to experiment however you wish. If I missed anything, or if you guys have any additional information, I would highly recommend you leave a comment down below, since I feel like we can all learn a thing or two from each other. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching.